As far as Netflix original films go, this one isn't bad. As far as MCU movies go, good lord, it is rough. Even compared to recent years, it's a mess. Like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you're new, check out the rest of the channel and let me know what you think. Let's dive into Captain America: Brave New World. No, the new Captain America is not on Netflix, but this film is the quality of something that you would find scrolling through the just added section on any given Friday night. Look, Thor: The Dark World, just for reference, is not a masterpiece. In fact, it's a very average, by-the-numbers movie, but at the very least, the world looks, feels, and sounds like a movie produced by a big-budget studio. Brave New World does not. From its writing and dialogue to its action set pieces and narrative, this is analogous to a made-for-TV movie. It's a pretty grueling watch. I don't want to spend the whole time railing against this film because there are a couple bright spots, so let's highlight those first before I go on a rant. Mackie and Ford are great. God bless Harrison Ford, American treasure. He's so good in this extremely mediocre superhero movie. And here's the thing, the dude is 82. He doesn't need the money. He did this movie because he wanted to do this movie, and when he saw the writing on the walls between all the reshoots and all the rewrites, he could have said fuck it and phoned it in, but he didn't. He gives his all trying to make this movie work, and Ross is probably the most interesting character in the film. He's now the president, and he's trying to become a better man. He's trying to make up for the misdeeds of his past, and he's trying to unite the country under a common goal of peace. Seeing Ford and Ross struggle with his past actions and trying to overcome them is a pretty good character arc, and unfortunately the only interesting character arc of this movie. Then there's Mackie. Mackie is a good actor. He's likable, charismatic, and he has the chops to go toe-to-toe with Hollywood greats like Ford, and their relationship is honestly one of the more compelling pieces in this movie. They both come from common struggles. And Mackie is great in his action scenes despite how boring some of them are. But I have two issues with Mackie. Number one, I don't like him as Cap. Here's the thing, it has nothing to do with race or him at all personally, or whatever. I wouldn't have liked Bucky as Cap either. The reason is, Steve had his story, and it was a good one, and he had an ending which was fantastic. It was meaningful, poignant, and inspiring, and it should have stayed that way. Let Cap's legacy rest with Rogers. Let Sam and Bucky be their own characters, their own men. I understand as a comic reader that there is precedent in the books, but I never liked when other characters take over mantles of the previous characters, in the comics or otherwise. I think for the most part, it's just lazy and it ruins the original character's legacy. I wish the MCU wouldn't have gone this route. I don't need another Cap, another Iron Man, etc. We've seen those already, and I don't need to see them again. Give me new characters or elevate Sam to a new position, still using his skills and alias as the Falcon. That's more interesting to me. My second issue with Mackie, well, not Mackie, but the writing for Mackie as Cap, is that we've already done this arc for 6 episodes in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and they just repeat the same one in this movie. But even through all of this, I think Mackie does do a good job with the just downright bad writing he is given. As for the narrative, well, it's all over the place. It's a jumbled mess of multiple movies mashed into one. You can tell that this movie has been rewritten and reshot over and over again. It wants to be a movie about Sam struggling with his identity as Cap, which, again, it wants to address the newly emerged celestial island from Eternals with the same tone as the Eternals. It wants to be a Winter Soldier style espionage war thriller, again with a different tone that doesn't match the Eternals. It wants to discuss hard-hitting geopolitical issues without actually discussing them, and it also wants to pay off 2 forgotten Hulk villain narratives, and none of this really flows together at all. Like, I just don't understand why Red Hulk and Leader are even in this movie. If they wanted this, just make a Hulk movie or a Hulk and Cap team-up film. Banner doesn't even cameo, which is the strangest part. How did they let this happen? In the Leader, Jesus Christ. This dude is a force to be reckoned with in the comics. He possesses telepathy and telekinesis, neither of which are present in this film, where he's just a guy with a deformed head that analyzes probabilities to pit the world against Ross and ruin his legacy. And they try to give him a moving backstory with Ross imprisoning him and using him, but he's got such little screen time, and his character is just so flat that none of it works. Not to mention, listen, I appreciate they went for practical effects with his makeup and the head, but it doesn't look good. It looks like a CW/DC show, and it just does not match what the budget of this movie was. I don't know, man. I didn't mind Red Hulk as much because the fight between him and Sam is fun, but still, why is he in this? There are so many Cap villains that have not been used yet. They added Giancarlo Esposito as the leader of the Serpent Society in a very minor role, and he's just a generic assassin who really does nothing. That should have been the story. If they wanted a Winter Soldier style movie, have Sam face off against an underground global criminal organization like the Serpent Society. Instead, the Leader is behind everything, somehow orchestrating all of the events in this movie, even though it all makes little to no sense. There are new characters, and they're pretty bad. Ruth, the head of Ross's security detail, is an ex-widow, and she's played by what I thought was a teenage girl at first. Look, I have no issue with smaller people manhandling bigger people in movies if it's believable, if it's done in a fashion where you're like, okay, I can see that. Like Natasha, or even Yelena. But my god, this actress is 4 feet tall and weighs 100 pounds, maybe? And she's flipping 200-pound dudes around like it's nothing. It's not believable in the slightest. And she's not a mutant like she is with her comic book counterpart. She's just a normal trained assassin. Not to mention, this actress is awful. Every line of dialogue she espoused is so wooden and emotionless. Danny Ramirez is back as the new Falcon, and he's pretty annoying. He makes jokes, gets some corny lines, has one big action scene, and gets sidelined the rest of the movie. Zosha Rockmore plays Ross's closest Secret Service agent, and she's equally as bad as the actress who plays Ruth. There is a ton of CGI in this movie, very noticeable CGI. This movie looks terrible. There are so many scenes where our characters are just clearly standing against a cheap green screen setup. Most notably at the end when Sam talks Ross down from his ego. I mean, I could have made that scene look better in my backyard. Now, I will say Red Hulk looks great. I mean, really great. You can see where the CGI budget went for this movie at least. But the rest of the film visually, just inexcusable. This movie is just bad, really bad. I know the MCU has sort of lost its way over the past couple years, but this movie might be rock bottom. It comes down to bad writing and bad directing, flat out. I mean, this movie was written by committee. I didn't know who actually wrote this film, and then the credits rolled, and there was 5 writers on the screen. And it shows. It's pretty evident. And they got the guy who directed the Cloverfield Paradox, a notoriously awful movie. And sure, you can't chastise a director for one misstep in their career, but there's nothing about this movie that is particularly interesting. This entire movie, from its story down to its camera work, is just uninspiring.